Welcome to Creative Caregiving and Beyond. More and more people are having to become caregivers for their elderly loved ones, and navigating this journey can be really difficult. This podcast will provide guidance and give practical tips for your family. Your host is Wendy Whiteman, elder law attorney, author, speaker, and leading insight advisor in senior protocol and senior lifestyle trends. Know that you are not alone in getting the help that you need. Let's get started. And here's Wendy.
Like many of you, I have the privilege of being the caregiver for my mother. So today we have a topic I think it's going to help you along your journey. For many of you, we have Carol Marak, and she is has a wonderful service called Aging Alone. And I was so interested in that. I said, Carol, you've got to come on the show and share with our audience exactly what that means. So, Carol, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm so happy to be here.
Great to have you. Great to have you. So what exactly is Aging Alone?
Well, it's a growing segment, people who are living solo and
Yes.
aging, growing older.
Yes.
And it's really about the premise of not having nearby family.
Okay.
Family to count on for help.
Yes.
So that could be people like me who are single.
Okay.
And we don't have a spouse, of course, or partner, nor do we have children.
Yes.
To count on.
Mm-hmm.
However, there are individuals who are widows and widowers who perhaps their children live far away.
Okay.
So
Yes.
they're living alone.
Alone. Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
they don't have nearby family to do some of the things for them that, adult children typically, like you, like
Right.
you're helping your mom.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and like how I help my parents.
Yes.
They're just not available for whatever reason.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I bet we saw a lot of that, especially during the quarantine. If your family couldn't get to a particular loved one, and I mean that was like a lot
Very
of
sad.
people were living alone,
Yes.
aging alone at that
Yes.
point.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And
Wow.
so now that people are rethinking
Mhm.
because they don't want to get stuck being isolated away
Right.
from family.
Yes.
So how do we change that? How
Yeah.
do we change our circumstance to make sure that we're not caught off guard again?
Right. Right. Well, how do we change that?
Well, that's a good question, and that's something I tell my audience.
Yes.
And people who are like me is start now and start thinking about how we can have more support around us.
Okay.
Perhaps move closer to your children if that works for you. Sometimes it doesn't. But if you don't have kids or a family to live nearby,
Mm-hmm.
then get to know your neighbors
Yes.
and make friends. Perhaps go to a church or a faith organization. Develop close relationships.
Relationships.
So many of us, we don't prepare, unfortunately,
right.
and we don't think forward. We think, well, everything's fine. I'm okay. I'm getting along. I can take care of myself, which is all wonderful,
Right,
and I
right.
certainly promote that. However, there are times when we might get stuck. For example, I live in a high-rise, and I did that intentionally
Okay.
because I knew that one day I might get sick.
Mm-hmm.
I might be hurt, or I might not be able to drive.
Mm-hmm.
So where can I live that I know that there's almost a guarantee that I have neighbors?
Well, that's true.
And I do.
Many neighbors. Yes.
And it's wonderful because my neighbor, we look out for each other.
Yes.
And I've made very close friends with some of my neighbors. So now I never feel alone.
Right. Right. Right.
It's wonderful. So, and I'm not saying that kind of lifestyle will fit for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but, start thinking about how do you want to live? How
Right.
do I want to live?
Yes.
What would close friendships be to me?
Right. Right. So in other words, just build community around yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's not a bad idea, anyway, just to build community. And, we're not an island where we can just live alone. And I think we've seen that through the pandemic and the quarantine, and we're beginning to see the results of that from every level and every age of being isolated.
Yes.
It's important to have that interaction and have a community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I visited an independent living community in Houston a few weeks ago. And they were telling me, the residents, because I've spent a lot of time with them, but they were telling me that the pandemic never really affected them because they said, well, we cheated a little bit. You know, we cheated. We still played our bingo and our
Yes.
cards and got together for social events
Yes.
in our apartments. And it was kind of funny, though. She said, but we never told management. So
That
they
is so
stayed
cute.
connected.
Yes,
And
staying connected.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Whatever that looks like. Even if you live in the suburbs, I really believe that you can build a close-knit community with your neighbors.
That's true. That's true. That is so true. And we all benefit from that. So, you know, Carol, you have quite the credentials. I mean, you're the expert in this area. And you've been featured in several magazines. I didn't mention that earlier. And can you name a few of the notable magazines? My gosh, the list is so long.
My favorite, of course,
Yes.
is New York Times.
Yes.
And that was on a Sunday.
Wow.
Right.
So when the viewership is just off the charts.
I know.
Yes.
It
yes.
was great. So that was my most favorite. And then it was the Washington Post, Chicago Tribune, AARP, World News, what is it, U.S. Health News, and,
Yes.
And USA Today.
That's amazing.
Isn't that great?
That is amazing.
I feel very blessed because my intention is to draw awareness.
Yes.
Because, you know, there was a research study that a geriatrician did back in 2015, and that's what caught my attention about elder orphans.
Okay.
And she called us elder orphans. But she didn't coin the term. That was already coined back in the 80s from another geriatrician. However, she just resurrected that term
The whole
again.
concept. Yes.
And so she called us hidden in plain sight.
Wow.
And it's so true. We're everywhere, right?
Yes.
We're at church. We're at the grocery store.
Yes.
We're shopping. We're walking out in the, you know, we're in the parks. We're at the museums and
Yes.
different places. But we're, you know, we always think of married couples. You know, when we think of
Right.
individuals, we think, well, they're married. They have a nuclear family. They have kids at home. That's just not the case.
It's not. It's not.
It isn't.
Well, and because family, we're more of a mobile society today too than we were generations ago, and people live everywhere. So you may have, you know, kids on the East Coast or West Coast, and the parents are in Texas, but they may not still be married, or you know, one's passed on. So even
Right.
if they're a widow,
Right.
they could be aging along. I mean, this whole concept is
Yes.
just
Yep.
yeah. We're seeing that
true.
quite often.
Oh, yeah, as a matter of fact, AARP did a study back in 2017.
Okay.
And they discovered that the American household is now made up of single people more so than nuclear family.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So it's 18 and over make up the largest household as opposed to, you know, married couples with kids.
Wow.
That's how much, and we're not even aware of it.
We're not. And so that's sort of spelling out our future.
Exactly.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
And so builders, developers still build single family homes. And it's like, wait a minute.
Right.
That's not the target audience anymore.
That's
or
true.
shouldn't be.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
You're right. Well, you know, I think about, I have a friend for Thanksgiving. She always invites everyone over who doesn't have family.
Oh, sweet.
And the number she was telling me that the number just grows and grows and grows. Because, and she said, it's just such a great opportunity, and the fellowship is just amazing, more than she ever experienced with her own family.
Oh, wow.
Just inviting people over. And we think about that during the holidays, and we're thinking about, you know, well, so-and-so lives here, and they don't have family here. I'd invite them over. But we don't think about it when it's not a holiday, usually. you know?
Right.
Yeah, because we'll see the Hallmark commercials, and we'll see, you know, different situations. They'll say, invite someone over and just make sure they're not alone during the holidays.
Right.
But what about the other 363 days of 4 days of the year, you know, when they're at home alone or aging alone or facing these tough decisions alone?
Yes.
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 Wow.
Yeah, so bringing that to the attention of the public, basically.
Yes.
You know, that we do exist, you know, which kind of reminds me when I go to my doctor, I have to remind her to ask me questions about, am I safe? You know, because doctors aren't even aware.
Right.
A lot of them aren't.
Right.
And so one time my doctor, you know, she was doing, you know, the checkup and asking me questions and things like that. And I said, you're not asking me about, am I safe at home? You're not giving me an assessment that really fits a person who's older alone.
Right.
You know, am I
true.
safe?
Yeah.
Do I have anyone that I'm afraid of where I live?
Right.
So anyway,
that's a very good point. Very valid point.
Yes.
And that does need to be a part of your medical history, because if something happened,
exactly.
You know, who is that next contact person? I noticed that you cover some of those issues too, about even estate planning. And you and I were talking about this earlier. The importance of getting that done when you're aging alone.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're no longer responsible, or you can't take care of yourself.
Right.
You know.
Yes.
Maybe you're incapacitated, maybe you're too sick, what have you, and then have a guardian assigned to you, but you know, so you have a complete stranger taking care of you.
That is so true. That is so true.
No, you don't want that.
No, you don't. It's so important, and I tell my clients and families all the time. You know, you make the decision. So you have the person that you want to be your guardian or your power of attorney or whatever it may be. Otherwise, someone else, if you don't make a decision, it's like making a decision.
Yes.
And someone else, it may be the state, that's going to come in and say, oh, this is who we'll select. And it may not be someone you want. Most times it's probably not someone you want making those decisions for you, because they don't know you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They don't know you.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about Solo and Smart.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's the name of my book.
Okay.
It should be published hopefully in the next 6 months to a year.
Great.
And it's all based on how I assessed my future. Let me give you a little background. After helping my parents, my sisters and I took care of Mom and Dad.
Okay.
Dad lived with Alzheimer's. Mom had several chronic illnesses, and believe me, their care was very inundated with medical doctors and treatments and what have you.
Yes, yes.
So anyway, after they both died, I realized, that's when it hit me, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Yes.
So that's when I started reflecting on what did Mom and Dad need?
Yeah.
What were their top concerns?
Okay.
And so I created this assessment that I used for myself, and I'm putting that together also as another product. And so it really assesses like your health. Okay. And it's not so much, I don't expect people to be doctors, right?
Right.
However, but you can really measure your level of satisfaction of your health, your housing, your transportation, social connections, support, the location where you live,
right,
and fitness, and even spiritual connection.
Okay.
So it's an assessment that I'm putting together, and that's what my book is about.
Okay.
It's based on that assessment.
That's wonderful. So after someone makes that assessment, they can evaluate where they need to make some changes.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a roadmap to follow.
That's brilliant. Yes.
Well, you know, I was always so frustrated because, you know, I read articles about how older people need to take care of themselves, so I would do research when I was helping Mom and Dad, and I became so frustrated because no one told me, well, what do you look for?
Right.
Right? Where do you start?
Yeah, where do you start? Exactly. Yeah.
So
that is so true. That is so true.
that's how that came about.
And you also have a podcast.
Yes.
And boy, you are just making a huge impact here. And you like to write.
I can't say I like
You like
it.
to, but you're getting the information out there.
Yeah, I mean, I am writing, and I've learned a lot about writing, and I think I'm pretty good at it by now. I've been writing for 15 years now on this topic.
Yes.
So, however, I enjoy doing podcasts more, interviews.
Okay. Good.
That's more fun.
So you have a podcast, and do you
Yes.
cover these subjects?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
Very good.
So it's really geared for family caregivers because it kind of really prompts your thinking and what to, it's about resources. It also, I interview experts like you that have that, that can give us tips and advice.
Yes.
And so it's just a wealth of information. I try to do one several times a week.
Well, and that is so important to make sure that we all get educated, because we can always learn more. And these are new things to our society as a whole, because, we were, I guess our community, civilization was more of a community at one point, and people are living everywhere. They're traveling more, and you just don't have the concentration or the relationships like you used to. Because I used to, growing up, we knew our neighbors, and we knew them very well. You could ask for a cup of sugar, a bar and egg or something if you ran out. But now it's like, I don't even know my neighbor's name. I don't think, to the left. I had to look it up on the homeowners association list. That's a shame. But we've come a long way from that.
Yes, we have.
And so you do have to make more an effort to get to know and build those relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It reminds me when I was growing up, we, like you say, we knew our neighbors.
Yes.
And Mom and Dad, every evening in the summer, they would drag out the lawn chairs from the backyard.
Yes.
And they would put it in the front yard. They would take 4 of them. And inevitably, within 5 to 10 minutes, neighbors would come out of their house and come and sit on the lawn chairs.
Wow.
And so that's a concept we don't even think about anymore.
We don't even think about it.
Yeah.
We don't even think about that, even the possibility of that even happening today.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there's a new, it's around housing. And this architect, Ross Chapin, he has come up with these different ideas about how to create community within your pocket neighborhoods. And I love his ideas, and that was one. Drag your lawn chairs in the front yard.
Yes.
Put a picnic table in the front yard and have a potluck dinner.
Yeah.
Or what? Cut up a watermelon.
Right.
And invite your neighbors.
That's a great idea.
He has some really fabulous
ideas. Because, you think about it, most of us don't go to our front yard. We're in the backyard. We're in the, the backyard kitchen and all that stuff, and communing with our families, but we don't go to the front yard to just go out and see, what's going on out there, other than as we're leaving, coming or going.
Exactly. Right. We're too hidden.
Right. We are.
Too hidden.
We are. Wow. That's a great concept, and that's a great tip.
Yeah, absolutely.
For all of us.
He even suggests take down your fences. And start getting to know your neighbors.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah, I love it.
I love that too. I love that concept. And it's just nothing but positive can come out of that. So what is, we were talking about, what are some of the effects that people experience when they're aging alone? Do you find demographically or statistically that a person who's aging alone, are they more prone to become depressed or are isolated and just what do you find, generally speaking?
Unfortunately, there was a study done by MD Links, which is a news feed for physicians. And I can't remember the year, if it was 2017 or 18, but they discovered, and you don't need, this is common sense, right? But yes, you get your chronic illnesses can increase. You can die sooner.
Wow.
Let's see what else. Of course, you're lonely, very lonely, which can make you more depressed.
Right.
And depression can really set off dementia.
It really can. Yes. Yes.
So those were some of the top issues that they found about, you know, staying isolated and being alone all the time.
Being alone all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you found that there are more men or women that are usually aging alone, or is it about 50-50?
Oh no, it's mostly women.
Mostly women?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, mostly women.
Yeah.
You know, because if a man loses his spouse, you know, they get married.
They can get, that's right.
Pretty quickly, whereas women were a little more hesitant.
Yes, yes. It's so funny. I've had a family through the years and clients, and they'll say, the ladies, after they lose their husband, they're like, well, you know, someone will ask them if they're going to get remarried. They're like, no, I've done that. I've got I can call my own shots right now. So I'm just going to enjoy this part of it. Of course, they miss their spouse and they had beautiful marriages, but you know, it's just kind of that sense of freedom a little bit, and they get a chance to be single again, and that's pretty funny. But what about pets? I know a lot of people will say, well, if you're alone, get a pet. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. If you want one.
If you want.
I always clarify that. If you want one.
Yes, yes.
And are you able to take care of them?
That's true. That is,
you know,
true.
And then you have to also think about who's going to take care of that pet if something should happen to you.
Yes. Yes.
You know, it's a big responsibility.
So one thing really leads to the other. I've seen that with a lot of my clients, if they have to go to a facility and they have that pet.
Yes.
And what are you going to do with that pet? And I have one client, and I love dogs, and my staff does too, and so he was like, well, just take him to the SPCA. And I'm like, no way.
Oh, no.
And not that the SPCA is bad. It's just that I think we can find him a home. And we did. And so I know that was like, that's not part of my legal description as a lawyer, but I just, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, because I'd seen the little dog run around so much, and he was so friendly. And it got to the point where he couldn't really walk him. And so the dog was just really wanting to run around and just have fun. He just let go with his new family, because he had been in a cage a lot.
Oh.
And he wasn't abused or anything, but he was just not able to run and play like he wanted to.
Oh.
So, but he's having a great time now. So.
Oh, wonderful. Well, you know, it's so sad because sometimes, especially with cats, and I've seen this, they just put the cat outside.
I know.
And move the person's furniture out and sell the house. And it's like, you can't do that.
You can't do that. Yeah.
Poor thing.
You can't do that. Yeah. I really have a heart for animals. Years ago when I was a prosecutor, our office, the courthouse was right down the street from the SPCA. So my friends would call and say, hey, Wendy, we found a dog. Or, you know, on lunch hour, I'm going to go pick up a dog and take him to the SPCA, or try to find a home for him. But it just tugs at your heart so much. And not just with, of course, with the animals, but with people. And they want to be able to, you know, keep their pets with them. And some facilities, we were talking about that, it's therapeutic. So they allow them to take their pets with them. I've seen that too. And a lot of them have rabbits and birds and you name it, at a lot of different senior communities as they age and go through memory care or something like that. But it can be very therapeutic for them too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting to know that there are more women than men. So have you found there to be any networking groups in your area? Do your audience, your listeners, do they have opportunities to meet each other or anything like that?
Well, before COVID.
Before COVID, yes, right.
Because I have a Facebook group for it. It's called Elder Orphans.
Okay.
And of course, again, I took that term from the geriatric medical research.
Yes.
Which I don't particularly care for. However, it gets your attention.
It does get your attention, that's for sure.
So there's a main group, and then I have a smaller one for Dallas, and I call that Dallas Aging Alone.
Okay.
And we're on Facebook, and we do meet for lunch. We used to meet once a month, but people are still a little leery.
Yes, yes.
And however, I really encourage people to just get out and like join Meetup, maybe go to the public library to see what's available there.
Right.
Go to your local senior centers, especially now.
That's so true.
We have some really wonderful senior centers that are doing some fabulous things for active adults.
Right.
And there are so many things that we can do now, even through lifelong learning institutes, and we can continue learning new skills.
That's so true.
And right now, most of them are online, but there's one up in Denton, North Texas.
Yes.
And they're starting to open up as well. And I think they're going to open up here in the local community some of their lifelong learning kind of classes and things. Yeah. So those are some really great places to meet peers and to meet friends and learn new things and just to get out of the house.
Yes, that is so true. And we've seen how technology can change that during COVID, especially because I did attend a senior center event online, and you could tell the camaraderie with some of the residents, and they were just so sweet, and they knew each other, and then they ended up having a wine tasting, and I thought that was a great idea too. So we got a chance to the actual winery was like in near Hill Country.
How fun!
And so, but it was just really being creative and imaginative to get people together,
right? And
just having a reason to get together and build that relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So a lot of senior centers just kept the ball going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're getting things kicked off again, which is great.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That is awesome. That is awesome. So what about I wanted to know how you got started in this area. Mm-hmm. So what made you think about, I know you're aging alone.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about that for yourself after your parents.
Right.
But what else, what fueled you to do a podcast, write a book? Did you come across so many different people that were in the same situation?
Yes. Yes. Seriously, my Facebook group, the main one.
Yes.
When I first launched it, I remember I had 500 members after like a month or two.
Wow.
And then reporters, journalists started picking it up. And I'll never forget the New York Times, when it was in New York Times, featured there. I think I had 2,000 people, 2,000 to 3,000 people want to join, like overnight. It was like, oh, this is crazy.
Wow.
So, yes, there's a lot of us out there, and I've written a book. I never really wanted to write a book, but I've been kind of nudged into it,
Yes.
So I have written it now. It's done. I'm done, thank God. So I've always been kind of ambitious.
Yes.
Well,
when the thought comes up, you're going to check it off the list, right? You're going to get it done.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So, yeah, it's such a huge issue. And I see the people in my group that really suffer needlessly.
Yes, yes.
They're so lonely.
So it sounds like your Facebook group is not just a Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Right. So exactly. It's global.
It's global.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, because it's on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So you've got people who can relate to that in other countries as well.
Yes.
And just.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And people make connections there.
Yes.
And members have Zoom calls just to get together.
That is great. You are really making an impact.
Well, they're doing it. They're doing it.
Yes.
And thanks to Facebook, that's a platform. So I've just kind of raised the awareness about it.
Yes.
Which is great.
It is great.
Yeah, so people feel so much more, I guess, what's the term? They're not lost. Right. They're not alone.
Right.
They're not alone.
Yeah.
Because there are so many of us.
That's right. And that's a lonely feeling when you feel that you are alone in any situation.
Exactly.
It's just not a good feeling. And
No.
just to know someone else can relate to it, there's someone else to talk to about it, and then you can laugh about it. You can say, I'm not alone. I'm not really the
Right.
only person facing this situation.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's great.
And I have to tell you, we are resourceful because we've had to deal with situations on our own. So when people join the group and they have questions, well, what do I do about this? How do I figure this out? What should I do about this? I'm telling you, they get many times 500 comments on suggestions on what that person did.
Yes.
And how they handled it.
So it's a world of knowledge.
It really is.
Wow.
It really is. Maybe I ought to do a book just on our Facebook group.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right. That would be great. You've got another book there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, because you think about it, when you're single or you're living alone, and there's no one else to say, hey, come fix this or come do this.
Right.
And you have to figure out, what do I do? You have to face it.
That's right.
And deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't pick up the phone and say, hi, honey, can you come and do this?
Right. Well, I think about what some people call Wintergeddon or whatever we had, that winter storm that came through Dallas-Fort Worth area, well, all over Texas, basically.
Yes.
And I could imagine, being not in contact with anybody and alone, and not in a like a high rise or something like that. If you're at home and you're trying to figure out, I hope my electricity doesn't go out, I hope my pipes don't burst. I mean, and what to do. That was scary for a lot of people.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, my sister, for one, she's older than I am, and she lives in a small community close to Waco, but she's alone.
Yes.
And living alone.
Right.
And her friends, she has a lot of friends, but still she was by herself. Can you imagine if you lost electricity?
Right. Electricity, exactly. So,
or water.
Right. And with the electricity, the water, you've got to have water. And then the electricity, that cuts your communication off.
Yes.
Yeah. And you're just coping with it. Yeah.
That's right.
Wow.
Very
I was talking to someone the other day. They were saying they're going to get a satellite phone, Oh. I said, that's not a bad idea. Have we come to that, It may come in handy at some point. But they live in the country, and they're like, sometimes they don't get good cell connection. And I was like, that's a great idea. Could come in handy. But, this is a wonderful concept, and I really love having you on the show. Do you have any tips or concluding thoughts that you'd like to leave with our audience today on aging alone or anything about that area?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
If you happen to be alone, like if you're a recent widow or widower and or recently divorced, for example, just please know you're not alone.
Yes.
You're not alone.
Right.
And heal whatever is hurting you as soon as you can, and start getting out.
Yes.
Start getting out
Very
and making
good.
connections.
Yes. I love that. And, thank you so much for coming on the show, Carol. This has been wonderful. And that reminds me of I think the last comment in my book is like, you're not alone. You have help, and there are people there that can support you. And that is so true. Now, how do we contact you if our audience wants to join your Facebook group or your podcast? What is the name of the podcast?
Solo and Smart.
Solo and Smart, okay. And
on
we'll put that
YouTube.
up on YouTube, okay?
Yes.
And we'll put that up. So I'll encourage you to go and definitely check out Solo and Smart with Carol on her podcast. Make sure you subscribe to her channel and like it. Yes, we always want you to do that, as well as for our podcast as well. Make sure you subscribe to our channels and like it as well. And as I close, usually I will say that go love on a senior, because it'll make their day. Because you know what? Sometimes they may be aging alone, and that's the point behind that statement, is checking on a senior and brighten their day. They may be alone. They just want someone. We all need someone to just love on us and interact with. Thank you so much, Carol, for coming on.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.